Okay, yeah, that's really fun. We're talking about sci-fi books today, which is why I have one of the 8,000 lightsabers in this house. We have like 18 of them. This obviously is not a very like comprehensive or even what I would call like my best ever list. These are some of my top sci-fi. Some of these I haven't read in a while. If we're going to talk about sci-fi, we have to talk about Frankenstein. It's the OG. I don't know why this copy is so stiff. Like, it feels like there's too much glue in the binding. It's really weird. It is odd reading it because it falls under the romanticism writing of the time where things get real flowery, and it's things that would probably this would have not worked in today's setting because the monster, who is minutes old and doesn't know what the moon is philosophizing about what is the moon with the same speaking tone as everyone who can read and write and isn't minutes old. It's things like that where it's of its time period. Take in mind, you enjoy it for what it is. But it's a very, very fun story. But you can't talk about sci fi without the OG. I have no idea where my copy of All Systems Red is, so imagine it. I want to actually get all of them. I've been getting them from the library because tour novellas are expensive. Oh my god, Murderbot is so good. Cannot wait for the show. Anyway, Murderbot is the story of a construct that hacks its own system so that it can go do whatever it wants. And it could go kill everyone, but it doesn't. It'd rather watch soap operas and have social anxiety and panic attacks every time someone tries to talk to it. And it's, while being really funny, it's very poignant and very deep for as much as you'll be laughing the whole time you're reading it. But they're one of my all-time favorite books. Others on tops of all time: Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I mean, I know everyone is on their list. This is Slice of Life in Space. It's a tunneling crew that has to go to a small angry planet, but because they're the ones making the tunnels of like how you do hyperspace jumps, they have to take the long way. That's really all the book is. It's their year of space travel and just the crew, their relationships, things that happen, and it's just so much fun and it's so cute, and I think about it all the time. Man, if you just want, you really can't beat Becky Chambers for such small things that feel like they mean so much. One of my all-time favorite novels, Gideon the Ninth. If you know me, you know I talk about this book all of the time, like to annoying levels, I'm sure to most people. But this is like sci fantasy. I'm sure there's like official term for that. It doesn't really have its own genre. It is all over the place. It's a locked room mystery. It's got spaceships. We're on different planets. We're somewhere in the future, but there's necromancers. And it's just a ton of fun. Gideon is the funnest character of all time. There's funny skeletons. Everything's grim funny too, so it's just the skeletons are falling apart as they're walking. Hera was an angry bitch at all times, and it is the best. And man, does this series go from like fun crazy to metaphysical, what reality am I living in? I think my brain is going to explode as they go on. And I don't know if I'm prepared for the last book. But yeah, I have to read this like every single year. That's how good it is. Fahrenheit 451. If you have not read this, you do need to. It is actually compulsively readable and still really fun even today. I mean, it's Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury's great. This is so interesting because it's a dystopian future, but it's the future from the perspective of the 1950s. So there's so many things that are so quintessentially the 50s, but in the future. And it's one of those books where it's really fun, but you see why it's a classic, and it's a book that'll make you think. It's also interesting that it's always getting banned. The book about book banning is always getting banned. That's what someone who really hasn't read the concept. But yes, Fahrenheit 451. I mean, you really have to read it. It's one of those ones that I think everyone should read. And it's that while still being a really good book. Also, I don't have a copy of this, but Red Sister, also on the like sci fantasy. Red Sister, Song of the Ancestor, so good by Mark Lawerence. It's battle nuns, death nuns. I have a thing about battle nuns whenever that's a trope in a story. Sign me up. But you have everything seems very fantasy, very medieval. But as you're going, you start putting things together and you're like, this is like generation ships later, isn't it? That's not a moon, that's a silver disc. And you realize you're in a sci-fi novel that's coded to look like a fantasy novel. And yeah, there's fantasy things going on, but it's very heavily a sci-fi framework. And it's dark, it's excellent. Honestly, I can't recommend it enough. So good. I haven't gotten to the sequel series yet. I have it, I just haven't started it. But I really, really need to because those books are so good. This one I haven't read since it came out. Ancillary Justice. The whole series is fantastic. There's a reason why it won. What did it all win? The Hugo, the Nebula, the Arthur C. Clarke, the Locust, and the BSFA. It won everything. Literally all of them. This is such a cool story. And the way language is used and perspective, especially because this is like a gender identity concept where this language or this conquering culture, they only use she. They only have one pronoun. They don't understand why other cultures get like offended or confused when you misgender someone because to them there is really no gender. You're just she. There is only one pronoun. So then whatever you are within all that is your own business essentially. So that's really interesting. But this is the story of a super spaceship that is fully artificial intelligent and it has the whole knowledge of itself, and it's a huge 3,000-year-old spaceship, and it's a battleship, and it has all these clone bodies of humans so it can have eyes in 1,000 places at once. And that's how it's used to existing until the ship is betrayed. The ship blows up, and there's only one human clone body left. So she has to solve her own murder. And it is so good. Back to Becky Chambers. A Psalm for the Wild-Built, Monk and Robot. Hello. Interrupted by cat. This is Charles. He's very needy. This is Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. It is a utopian future, which that's rare. And it's so hopeful and so happy, and it's just cute because it's about a tea monk who they pedal around to different places and they serve tea and listen to your problems and make you feel better. That's their job. And this is in a world where the robots left long ago because they kind of had a robot uprising, but then it was more of a like, yeah, we just want to go live in the woods, the nature stuff, and away from the non nature stuff that made us. And people are like, okay. And this is a robot who comes back with the single question: what do humans need? And that's it. It's a robot trying to understand people in a world where people want for nothing anymore. What do humans need? And it's so adorable. Anyway, it's at least some of my top sci-fi recommendations. I want to read more sci-fi this year. I've kind of haven't gotten a chance to read a lot of it lately. I've been so onto fantasy, but there's so many good ones out there. If you have a favorite sci-fi that I didn't mention, hey, list it below. Happy reading.